Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Mara. It is time for another update and it seems we have managed to follow through within our expectations within our trade setup from the previous video, where we identified an initial 5-wave move to the upside, a potential 3-wave correction deep into our area of support, and even internally a potential 1-2 setup in this structure that would have allowed us to have several levels of confirmation that this pattern would successfully extend to higher prices. We have followed through, we have some new updates on the structure available currently, and we need to reassess the position this chart and this structure is overall within. But before we do that, let's go through the larger time frame to provide the structure we have as a base for context for this entire chart. So we start here on the larger time frame from the all-time low level, where we identified even a potential leading diagonal, which frankly is not a need. Unfortunately, this pattern can just as well be tracked as an ABC structure, but we have been tracking it as a wave 1. It does add complexity to the chart, the fact that we do not have a clear 5-wave pattern, but nothing really we can change about that. So we have been tracking two scenarios. One would assume that the wave 2 is already in place, and we would be looking for a wave 3 to take us to even higher prices. For this idea, we would need to consider that this could work out as a wave A in the best case scenario, yeah? An impulse is not available, as so far we only have a 3-wave pattern in this extension from the current wave 2 bottom. Then we also have the possibility to consider that this wave 2 is not complete yet, that we will see a reset, and that this overall extension to lower prices from the last swing high isn't just an internal correction, but a complete reset of the wave 2, possibly within a wave C in yellow. Then there is also the possibility that this is overall building just a larger ABC pattern. That is something to consider, but it's no different from what I would track internally within a wave A in the area of a leading diagonal, where until I get evidence that the structure would fail to build a 5-wave pattern, I will be looking for such a potential. So we go internally within these patterns, within these structures, and in the yellow interpretation, we even have 3 waves to the downside complete. We could be looking for extensions within the wave 3 itself. It is certainly a possibility, probably even a preference if we are to indeed form a reset of this wave 2 in white. But just as well, we could consider that this is the wave 2 in white complete. So we have identified an internal area of support to track for an indication that this structure would rather see a failure and not an extension to higher prices, where we know that if we get a sustained break below the 78.6% retracement, the reliability of looking for higher prices would come into question. Now, the beautiful part about the opportunity we provided in the previous video is that it didn't care whether the yellow scenario would be in charge or the white interpretation would win, because ultimately, within both scenarios, I would have been looking at least for an extension to higher prices, right? We provided even an area of resistance for the yellow wave 4. Now, there are options where we could even extend the resistance area. As I was mentioning, this wave 3 doesn't need to have a bottom in place, but for the sake of simplicity, we have pushed into the first level of resistance. Within the first movement to the upside, we were expecting to continue to higher prices because we had the initial 5-wave move to the upside, which is suggesting that with high probabilities after a 3-wave correction, which we did identify into the area of support, into which we pushed quite deeply, we would be looking for at least another 5-wave move to the upside, whether that is within a wave C, whether that is within a wave 3 in the white interpretation. So we had a high probability area of support. We had completed a potential correction, we had pushed deep into this area of support, and we had incredible risk-reward ratios, where in the case of the wave 3, we were looking for a 1:6 risk-reward ratio, and even in the case of the wave C in yellow, we were looking to reach the ideal target at the 100% extension of the wave A. That would have been, even from the prices in the previous video, which isn't the actual bottom, would have been around, let's say, a near 1 to 4 risk reward ratio, and even in the case where we wouldn't reach this ideal target for the wave C, let's say we only got to the 78.6% extension, we nearly had a 1 to 3 risk reward ratio, because we mentioned that, okay, we may want to place a stop loss somewhere below the last level of support at $7.3, so we were looking at potentially 11% in loss, maybe 12%, something like that. We didn't need to be too exact because we had a very promising setup in this area, and we had identified, even internally within this structure, a support zone that didn't necessarily provide much time for an entry, but it has reached its area and it has generated the reversal and the extension to even higher prices. So today we will take another look at what is really going on within this structure, where again, if this was to be a wave 3, we would have needed to form an impulse in this structure. And while technically this can still work out, the probabilities of this being a reliable pattern have been drastically reduced. So we would still be looking for a 5-wave pattern within both scenarios, but I would have to consider that this could be something like a wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, and the wave 3 could still be ongoing. In an ideal world, we would see even further extensions. The momentum hasn't necessarily been lost, but we have to consider that we are getting quite close to the ideal target for a wave C. And once again, even though the possibility of an impulse in this white structure is still in play, the likelihood of it happening has reduced significantly since the internal structure has failed to generate an impulse. So what is really more likely? Well, it is more likely that the wave C is forming within this pattern instead, that we will not see the wave 3, that we may not see continuation to higher prices beyond the current wave to the upside, but this has been the trade setup, right? The likely portion of this uptrend was to build one more move to the upside. Nothing beyond that has been deemed as a high probability. And I'm sure some people may be taking this as a guarantee that we will see extensions to lower prices within the yellow interpretation, but I do want to remind you that even if we do not manage to build an impulse in this structure, it doesn't mean that we have failed the white scenario, because this wave 3 in white would need to ultimately be an A, B, C structure itself. Within this wave 1, we have identified only a 3-wave pattern, meaning that we cannot look for an impulse within this wave 3, meaning that we may be building just an internal wave A within 3 waves. We would be building then, let's say, an even larger wave A within 3 waves, part of the larger wave 3. The uptrend hasn't failed yet, but the larger high probability structure is in shambles. So we move here into the smaller time frame where we have a couple of options. We need to remember where the ideal target for the wave C is in the case of this structure, the 100% extension of the wave A. It doesn't need to get there, but it is good to remind ourselves where it would be ideal to form a top within this wave C, and that is at $11.5, perfectly in line with structural resistance within this wave 4. The way I see it, it is a high threat area, but then we go into the internal structure and we would be looking to potentially extend even higher within this blue scenario, because I chose a different color than yellow for a reason, because we can always be looking for extensions. So in this blue interpretation, I could consider this to have been something like an A, B, C pattern. This would have been a wave 1. We would have now an A, B, C pattern within the wave 3. This would allow considerable extensions to even higher prices. And then we could be looking even for a wave 4, even for a wave 5. And sure, ultimately, structures can extend considerably. Now, for a more realistic structure, however, I do need to allow the possibility of having a wave 1 in place here, and this will be tracked in yellow. We would have a wave 2 down here. This would have been a wave 3 up, a wave 4 down, and a wave 5 that could form a top at any point within this wave C. Yeah, quite possibly within the ideal target, the 100% extension, as I would be tracking a diagonal structure in both interpretations. Now, whether this will then extend even further, I cannot tell you at this point. I would have no indication, but this yellow structure would be able to have internally probably an ABC within the wave 1 that we cannot even really see too well. But then within the wave 3, we would have here a wave A up, a wave B down. This would work out as a wave C. We would have then the wave 4, and we would be looking only for an A, B, C structure within the wave 5 before assuming a more substantial top could be in place. In this structure, we would of course be looking for a wave C within the wave 5 itself, and this would allow me to actually prefer one more high before assuming the count is complete. The count is full, that it doesn't need any further extensions. So I would have here a wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, a wave 3 up, a wave 4 down, and a wave 5 to take us in this extension to higher prices. And I would be tracking the levels of support down to the 61.8% retracement, where a sustained break below that would already be a decently good warning sign that the structure has ultimately failed, that the extension we would expect has ultimately failed, that we might not see any further extensions, that this entire movement, this entire structure we have been tracking as a trade setup might in fact be complete. We need to appreciate that the structure has followed through within its expectations, but we have to also understand that it doesn't need to extend any higher. Now, given the momentum that is currently going on in this overall pattern, we would not need to see a failure. This structure can extend in many different ways to much higher prices, but I would also take a look at, let's say, the RSI, because the momentum is still up. There is no indication from this perspective of a failure to extend to even higher prices. So you might want to capture some profits, but you might not want to cash all out. You might want to place your stop loss at various levels depending on how much of your currently available profit you would like to give the opportunity to extend even higher. You may even want to use a trailing stop loss, and ultimately, we are extremely far from our entry from the previous video. It is quite difficult to make this a losing trade, but not capturing any profits might also not be the best idea. So I'm not here giving you financial advice, I'm here telling you that the game has changed. We aren't really looking for a position in this area, we are rather looking to have an exit plan, because this could go very wrong very fast, as the pattern is close to being full. It doesn't need any of these extensions, but of course, the momentum stays strong and considerable extensions are possible. Ultimately, this will be your choice. We even have an internal area of support down to $10.3. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. And if you enjoy our content and want to support us directly, check out our channel membership. And as a thank you for any of these actions, I would like to invite you to sign up to our channel newsletter, where you get access to our monthly top picks, where we identify for you high quality structures. Other than that, let me know what else you would like me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I wish you a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.